let's go back for the first thing we are learning in this class. Okay, so we did parabolas, right? So we are learning what? Bend the lines. So for your 152A class, you learn the simplest thing and in the universe, right? Say straight line, the lights go straight line, and radio signals, they go straight lines. Okay, so then next thing we are going to learn is the circles, right? Then ellipse, okay, and hyperbolas, things like this. So those are the natural phenomena, right? Why we have to learn parabolas? Because if you threw a ball, then ball will travel like this and fall. It's like a parabola. Okay, so the circle is just the nature of our environment. Then ellipses, this is the sun. Many planets go around the sun in such a way, right? Or certain comet coming and go in this way. It's like a hyperbola. So we are learning the basic situation in our physical universe. Then we try to describe them with formulas, right? That's why we can go to the moon, we can have a cell phone to send out the signals, all these type of things, right? So let's review our parabolas again. So it's a function, right? Y equals f of x. And if we write it in the standard form for a parabola, like those, up and down, right? So it's like what? Ax squared plus bx plus c. The standard form. If we write it in the vertex form, that would be what? To the square plus k. Remember this? So it's second degree polynomial with written as a function, then it ends up the graph is a parabola, right? So we did this one like y equals x squared, y equals negative x squared. So if it's a positive, leading coefficient is positive, it opens up, negative, it opens down, right? And we just did t-table to do that. However, if we write it this way, x equals negative y squared, what will happen? For those, if you do the t-table, right, then if y is 0, x is 0, y is what? Positive 1, x is 1. Okay, so 1, 1, y is negative 1, x still positive 1. So you do your t-table, you end up with this way. Okay, then x equals negative y squared, it ends up this way. It's a sideways parabola. However, for the sideways parabolas, are they functions? You do your vertical line test. It's not. That's why we didn't talk about much about sideways parabolas. Okay, so mainly we just talk about the functions. So we are on your page 44 and sections 11.1, 11.2. for parabolas and circles first. Then next time we will talk about other things. Okay? So then this graph would be what? Would be parabola. Right? It's a parabola. If it's written like those. Then the vertex, you have vertex form, then you can tell the vertex is what? HK. Then the line of symmetry is what? At the vertex goes straight up and down, so it's x equals h. Did we do that? So we say if a bigger than 0, the parabola opens up. If a less than 0, parabola opens down, right? Then also the leading coefficient, if it's bigger than 1, doesn't matter it's up or down, right? So it's bigger than 1, that means what? Y shoots up quickly, then it will stretch what? Narrower, right? Y stretched up. If A is less than 1 and bigger than 0 means half and 1/3, then Y grows gradually, so it's what? It's stretched wider. Did we do that? So let's review more parabolas, then we go to circles and other things. Okay, so you have done this many times. Look at the first one. If you have f of x equals to x plus 3 square minus 8, right? So do we have the quadratic function, right? And what kind of form we have is this one. So that will be vertex form. So if you have a vertex form, it will be easier for you to graph, right? Because you can just do the t-table, x, y equals this one, 2x plus 3 square minus 8. Then you have to decide which point you put in the middle, which is your vertex, right? So negative 3x is opposite, right, with the sign. Then you plug in, then your y will be negative 8. Then you do those more points. Then you just plug in. Let me see what kind of numbers I have here. So then I only have a few points. You can just plug in. So then negative 1, I have 0. Negative 5, I have 0. If it's a negative 2, that will be what? 1 square, 2, then negative 6. Is that right? Okay, that would be 1, yes. Then this would be negative 6. So it should be what? Symmetric. Okay, I'm just checking my number, make sure it's correct. All right, so if we graph it, right? So we put this in the middle, negative 3 and negative 8. Negative 3, negative 8, right? And negative 2, then negative 6, negative 1 is what? 0 right here. Negative 1 is 0. Here is another point. Here, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Negative 5 is 0 again. Negative 5 is 0. Right? So the graph, because the leading coefficient is bigger than 1, so you stretched upwards quicker, right? Maybe even more like that. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, so you will give a few points, at least 5 if you graph a parabola. Then let's take a look. Other questions we might have would be what? You will ask you, what's your vertex? Vertex would be -3, -8, right? What's your line of symmetry? That would be this line, go through this point, go through the vertex. It's an equation. You better write an equal somewhere, right? Equal sign somewhere. Then if we have x and y intercepts, so x, y intercept. So if you put x, y is 0, that would be your x-intercept. That would be these 2 points, right? Or you can solve it. It's the same thing. So your x-intercept would be what? -5, 0, and -1, 0. Then y-intercept is x is 0. It's here somewhere, right? So you plug in x is 0, 3 squared 9 times 2, 18 minus 8. So it's what? 10. So that will be your y-intercept, right? So do you have maximum or minimum? Because it opens up, you have bottom limit, right? So you have a minimum equals what? -8. Then we also ask you what's domain, what's range. Domain would be what? All possible x value, how far you can go left and right. That would be this one. Then how about the range? Go up and down. That would be what? From -8 up, right? Including -8. So you use what? Bracket. Okay? Then next one, if we have f of x equals -x squared minus 2x minus 7, okay, we are going to graph it. So leading coefficient is what? Negative, so it opens down. Should we look like this? But where is your vertex? You don't have a vertex form, right? Then we say you can do what? Completing the square, or you can find the vertex directly by what? This is your x, this is your y, right? How do you find your x? X is what? -b/2a. That's on your page 21, I think. Okay, so what's your a? A is -1, so 2, -1. B is what? -2. So it would be what? Positive and negative? That would be -1, right? So your T table, which number you will put it in the middle? This guy, -1, right? Then what's your y? You plug in, then you should get a -6. So you will have what? -1, -6, somewhere there. -1, -6. That will be your vertex. Then you use other points, right? 0, 1, -2, -3. So you will have 0, that would be just plug in -7. Then if you have a 1, you will have, let me see, what's the answer? 7, 8, 9, 10, should be 10. negative 10. Okay, then it should be symmetric. Negative 7, negative 10. So you will have negative 1, negative 6 is there, 0, negative 7 is here, 1, negative 10 is here, then you have other point here, right? Negative 2 and 7, negative 3 and negative 10. Then you graph it, then it opens down, right? So that would be your graph. Okay, then where is your exit of symmetry? Right here. So line of symmetry would be what? This negative 1 place. X is negative 1. Then what's your x-intercept? What do you think? None, right? Then what is your y-intercept? Y-intercept is what? X is 0. That's your y-intercept, right? So do you have a maximum or minimum? This guy, that would be maximum, which is negative 6. Then what's your domain and range? Domain would be your x's. So that would be negative infinity to infinity. Your range will go up and down from here and down, right? So you write a negative infinity all the way to what? 7. Remember this? Uh-oh, not the 7, that's that guy. It's over there. This is a negative 7. Okay, so that would be what? Negative 6. Right? We did this before for parabolas. So we just reviewed it again. Now we are going to do the next thing. It's called circle. Okay, let's take a look. What kind of things we call a circle? If you graph it, you know, right? How do they look like? So the circle will have what? Something in the middle, right? Then you do a circle. Then here will be what? This one will be radius. And the whole thing, if it cross the center, in the middle we call it center, right? Then if you cross over from side to side, we call it a diameter. So, same thing as parabola, we will describe it as y equals something, right? Second degree polynomial. Then we need to describe it's in the second dimensional world, right? Flat on the surface. Then we use x and y's to describe it like an equation. How we are going to do it. Like a parabola, you do like y equals x squared or y equal to negative x squared, things like that. And for a circle, let's see how should we describe it. Okay? So for a circle, you know you will have what? Radius. You will have a center, right? Let's see some examples before we can describe for you. So if I have example like this, x squared plus y squared equals 1. I'm going to graph all the points for the x and y's. Then see how it looks like. So, if I have say x is 0. If my x is 0, we just use a few points, okay? So you can visualize. When x is 0, what do we have? Then we have y squared equals 1. Then what's your y? Y would be what? You would tell me 1. Then I would say that's not good enough, right? For the square root property, you need to have what? Can be positive or can be negative. That means when x is 0, y is what? 1 or negative 1. That would satisfy this equation, right? So x is 0, so you can have 0, 1, y is a positive and negative 1, right? Then when y is 0, okay, what happened to x? Then you have y is 0, x squared is 1, then x equals what? Positive, negative 1, right? So when y is 0, x can be what? Positive 1 or negative 1. So that would be 1, 0 and negative 1, 0. So if you connect all the points, you can have other points, right? Will not be a good numbers, maybe, you know, like square root 2, square root 3, things like that, okay? So if you connect all those points, you will draw a circle like this. It ends up a circle, okay? So if you have x squared plus y squared equals 4, just use a good number. What happened? X is 0, y would be what? Plus minus 2. When y is 0, x would be what? Plus minus 2, right? So it ends up like this. Okay? And if you have, say, x squared plus y squared equals 9, what do you think it ends up? x0, y would be 3, right? So it would be here, 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 here. That would be, it will look like this. When x squared plus y squared equals 9. So, did you see a pattern? If we have this, okay, if I have x squared plus y squared equals something good number r squared, what do you think? This one is like 1 squared, this one is 2 squared, this one is 3 squared. That means what? What is your center? What is your radius? If you have that equation, it means what? You have it in the center would be 0, 0, and radius equals what? R, right? If we shift things around, this center is 0, 0. If center is h and k, you will have this case like this. Y minus k squared equals what? R squared. Then your center will be what? H, K, right? Then radius will be R. Okay? So for the circle, the formula is relatively simple. Everybody is a square. Okay? What happens is, like our y equals x squared, that means what? it looks like this, right? It was straight line, so y stays. X has positive and negative, so expand. See, expand once, okay? And if you have x squared and y squared, both have a square, that means both x bend, y bend, it end up a circle, right? That's just a brief explanation, the visualized part of it. That's how you look at the circle. So if it's the circle, we need to do what? We need to have something square, something square. Okay? And if we ask you to graph things like second one, you can see if you have a second one example on your paper, page 45. If you have a situation like this, then how are you going to graph it? You have to find the center. You have to find the what? The radius. Then you can graph it. Then if you have a situation like this, you have to make a what? Perfect squares to do that. You have to complete the square. So we wanted to go back to review how we are going to complete a square again, right? If you have 6x like this, x squared minus 6x like this, then for a complete square, those things, if you multiply out, it's a trinomial, right? You have to have 3 terms to make a complete square. So what do you think this number would be? So we will make what? Half of the b is 3. You need to do that, right? So then this number will be 9. If you have 2 terms like this, which third term you need? This one will be what? X minus 3 squared. So you need to still plus 9. Is that right? So we have to make a complete square before we can use this formula, right? The form to decide what is the center, h and k, what's your radius, okay? So if you look at the example, next one, if you have x plus 2 squared plus y squared equals 9. So I do have a complete square. What happened to y just by itself? So it means what? X plus square plus what? Y plus 0 or minus 0 equals square equals what? 3 squared, right? So what is your center? Opposite, because it's within the parentheses, it moves with x in opposite direction to neutralize, becomes 0, right? So it's a negative 2, y is 0. That will be your center. What's your radius? That would be 3. So if you can do that, can you graph it? So center is what? Negative 2 and 0. If we ask you to graph it, you need to specify the center. Radius is what? 3 this way. Then 1, 2, 3 is this way, right? So what's this position? 1, 0. What is this position? Negative 5, 0, right? Then same thing, go up 3 position, right? Go down 3 position. So what's this position? It's a negative 2, but go up 3 for y, come down 3 for y, right? Negative 3. Okay? Then you should be able to graph your circle as such. So for a circle, when you graph it, you need to specify your center, so we know where is it. You need to specify your 4 corners, right? 4 round corners, so we know exactly what do you mean by the circle. Okay, then let's look at other things. Next one, that would be, let's look, this one, it's x squared plus y squared plus 6x minus 2y equals 15, right? But we need this form, pretty much a standard form, right? One is a standard form, in the center is 0, 0. This is a shift form, center is h and k. Then we need to have this guy so we can graph the circle. Then we will know the center and radius, so we can draw the circle, right? So what do we need to do? We need to make it happen, right? I'm just rewriting that exactly the same, right? But I have to fit in the something square x, leading coefficient is 1 is better, y square equals something square. Okay, so let's see which number do we need. So half of x is plus 3. If I plus 3 here, I need a 9 to complete it, right? Then if minus 2 here, I have to minus 1 half of a b, minus 1 here, then I need a plus 1 here. Then if we do that, this side you inject the 2 more numbers, you have to balance it to go back to original equation, right? So that will be 25, which is what? 5 squared, right? If so, if you do that, then do you have those 4 now? So what is your center? Center would be what? Opposite, right? Center would be -3 and 1. Then what is your radius? Would be 5. Then can you graph it? Now you can, right? Center is what? -3 and 1. -3 and 1, right? The radius is 5. So you'll need to go 5 position is here. That would be what? Still 1, right? So that would be 3 there. So that would be what? 2 and 1. Then your 5 position here, that would be this position, -3, 5 position over, -8 and 1, right? Then you have to have 5 position higher, so that will be -3 and 6. Then 5 position lower, that will be -3 and -4. Is that right? Now you can make your circle. Is that right? Not too bad, right? As long as you can complete this square, then you can make a form for the circle, then you'll be good, right? Then let's see next one. If we have x squared plus y squared equals -8x plus 12y minus 36. What do you think? How should you start? X and y have to be on the left hand side like this, right? So you move xy over, so you will have x squared plus 8x, 8ax, right? Then plus y squared minus 12y equals -36, right? you plus 8x and minus 12y on both sides. Then do the same thing to complete the squares. So I will have x plus something squared plus y and something squared equals a number. So let's see, what do we need? So this one would be what? 4. Then you need to have what? Plus 16, 4 squared, right? Then this one would be what? Minus 6. Then you need to take a negative 6 squared is plus 36. If you do that to one side, you have to do another side as well. Then what do we have? We have 16. 16 is what? 4 squared, right? Then what is your center? What is your radius? So your center would be, let me find a place for it. So center would be this one, right? Opposite, negative 4 and 6. Radius is 4. So let's see, how does it look like? So radius is 4. Center is negative 4 and 6. Should be on this side. Okay, so that would be negative 4 and 6. So a little bit higher, negative 4 and 6. Then radius is what? 4. So you have to go 4 places this way, 4 places this way, 4 places this way, and 4 places this way, right? Then let's identify them. So this is a negative 4, then go negative 4. Negative 4 is 4 here. Then 4 distance away, that would be this portion. That would be what? 0, 6, right? Then here would be what? 4 away become negative 8 and 6, right? Then 4 down for the y, that would be negative 4 and 2. 4 up for the y would be negative 4 and 10. So you identified all the 4 corners. Then you can draw your circle. Is that right? Pretty straightforward, right? All you have to do is to identify your center and find your radius, then you'll be good. Okay, then let's take a look at this one. If we say C, center is here, then radius is 7. How are you going to write the equations? Okay, we just plug in here. That's all we have to do, right? X minus 5, opposite. So your H and K, right? Plus what? K is a negative 1, minus negative 1 become 1. Then you take a square, then you take a what? 7 squared. That's all you need to do to write the equations. So you might write a 7 squared, or you can use 49. Either way would be fine. If you have center is 0 and 3, then your radius is the square root of 2. Square root of 2 is a number, right? 1.414, something like that. So how do you write? X minus 0 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals what? Square root of 2 squared. Then you don't want to leave square root of 2 squared, so you will write your final answer like this. Square root of 2 squared is what? 2. It's preferable you write the answer that way. Right? So if like this, not on your paper, if you have, say, x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals, say, 5. You have a formula like that, right? However, if like this, what's your center? Will be 2 and 1. But what's your radius? 5 is what? R squared. Then what's your R? Right? R squared is 5. Then if it's written this way, that means what? R is what? Find R is what? Square root of 5. That would be your radius. Okay? When you solve the square root equation, right? Square equation, then you squared it. You should have R equals what? Plus minus square root of 5. However, your radius cannot be negative. So you will just use the positive. Okay? So that will cover our circles, as simple as that. So it should not be a problem for you. Let's see. Okay? You might have a problem for the hyperbola when you draw it, but when you do the circles and ellipses, you should be fine. Okay. For next one, on your page 46, we are going to see some kind of applications with parabolas. But this one is not on your homework or nor on the test, but it's quite practical for engineers when they design a bridge. Okay, look at the picture. If there is a bridge over here, then like this, okay, then water running through all that. Okay, so if we have a situation like this, then we say the river crossed over is what? 20 feet. Then if your height from the bottom of the curve, right, your road go through that. Then if this one is 10 feet, then we said, okay, how you are going to describe the curve on this one. Okay, usually we would like to describe the curve like this one is a parabola with an equation. So when you design this way, you know the equation, sometimes you can program into the machine when they build the things that will be exact. Okay, then how we are going to write these equations? If you are not going to be engineer or physicist or things like that, you may not care, right? However, in general, we use this quite a bit. So, if we wanted to design a bridge, right, and have a curve this way, how we are going to describe it? So you can look at this way. If you write the x and y axis, so you can see it better, right? So we want to what? 20 feet here. 20. okay? Then it's a symmetrical, right? So it's 10 here, then 10 here, right? Then if we write it with x and y this way, the curve will look like this. Then how we are going to describe the parabola this way with, an equation. So this position would be what? 0, 0. This position would be what? 20, 0, right? Here halfway is 10, height is 10. That's 10, 10. Then how we are going to write the equation for this parabola? Then we know the equation standard one would be what? This one, if it opens down, would be like this, right? Or we write it in the vertex form would be what? Y equals x minus h squared plus k, right? That's a standard form. Then it opens down, so we know should be what? Y equals negative x minus h squared plus k, right? Then we know h and k are what? Oh yes, forgot about this. We should have a. Maybe it's not just a simple one. It might be stretched, right? So, but we know a is what? A negative number because it opens down. So we use a here. Just use the standard vertex form, right? Then what do we have? We don't know the a because we don't know how it's stretched. We only know it looks like this. But we do know the vertex is what? H is 10, k is what? 10. Is that right? Okay. Then when we write the equations, it should look like this, right? So we need to know our a and h and k. We do know h and k. How we can find out our a, then we can see how it's stretched, right, as a parabola. So how can we find out what is a? We only know a is a negative number. So what can we do? Take a look. 0, 0 should be on the curve. 20, 0 is on the curve as well. So you plug in 0, 0 should be 0, 0 point should belong to this equation, right? So what would you do? Okay, so because it passing through 0, 0 or 20, 0. So we just use one of them, we just plug in this one. It should satisfy this equation, right? So y is 0, then x is 0, right? So you plug in, then see what will happen. Okay, so y is 0, that's what, right? Equals what? Add a times 0 minus 10 squared plus 10. That's how you plug in 0, 0. 0 for x, 0 for y, right? Then what do we have? We have 0 equals a times negative 10 squared plus 10. We have what? Negative 10, 100. 100, a plus 10, right? Then you end up this, then you solve your a, you minus 10 on both sides divided by 100. A is what? Negative 1/10. So we have a, we have h, we have k. we should be able to describe this curve. This curve will be what? Y equals -1/10, okay? -1/10 x minus 10 squared plus 10. That will be the function or equation for this parabola. Got an idea? Okay. So if we know the curve, the equation for the bridge, for the, say, the civil engineers or material engineers or the structure engineers, they can calculate the impact and support for the bridge, right? They can see, they can calculate how much weight they can carry on the bridge, for examples, right? So that's how we can use the equations if we can figure out. So that would be our sections 11.1 and 11.2.